Good afternoon. Well, welcome to our session. Welcome to our session this afternoon in Hong Kong. Well, we say hello to friends around the world waiting to share this exchange. Well, this occasion is a seminar organized by the Hong Kong Body, Mind, Spirit platform, and we are so honored this afternoon to have, as you can see here, so many guests and speakers to share with us their views and experience. And this afternoon, our topic is traps and challenges for spiritual teachers. So this is an occasion for spiritual teachers to come together, to share, to learn, and to make friends. We are so happy to see so many of you here. It's only 3 days that we organize this occasion. And this afternoon, our focus will be on 5 topics, namely traps and challenges for spiritual teachers, effective ways of self-empowerment for spiritual teachers, healthy alliance among these people, effective ways to promote body, mind, spirit awakening, and the social role and mission of spiritual teachers. And well, as you know, we have a phenomenal growth of spiritual teaching in Hong Kong these days. I remember very clearly 25 years ago when my friends and I started promoting things like massaging, meditation, vegetarianism, hands-on healing, sound healing. We were treated as Martians. Those practices were regarded as so weird and out of the way that we have to try our very best to remain sane. But in the past decades, things changed, and now we see hundreds, literally hundreds of practitioners along this line amongst us in this community. They are the healers, they are the teachers, they are the life coaches, and then counselors, and many of us are trying to make a living, setting up a little business to promote what we think is meaningful. And as I said, this is a very exciting moment in history in this community. In many ways, Hong Kong is lagging behind the other parts of the world, but we are, I think, fast catching up. And at this moment, as you know, China is opening up. So I think spiritual teaching in Hong Kong has a special role in awakening the community here, as well as the much larger community north of the border. And so this afternoon we are very honored to have several internationally renowned speakers in this room, and we also have two of our local speakers. And on my left is Dr. Zhou Wangshan. As you know, he is the founder of Dream Possible. And then we have Ms. Santa Lau, founder of the Heart of Astral Lightworks Center. And on the left, we have Angela Spexman, founding president of Hong Kong International Coaching Community, and Danny Kusinkara, who is a celebrated author and a coach. And all the way from Canada, we have Danny Lito, founder of the School of the Heart. So I would now like to pass the microphone on to our first speaker, Dr. Zhou.
Hi, it's truly my great honor to be here today. Last year, Hong Kong was ranked the world's most competitive economy. That's the second time we received such an honor from International Institute of Management Development. We're even ahead of USA, Switzerland, and Singapore. another research measuring global competitiveness conducted by World Economic Forum and NGO in Geneva ranks Hong Kong number 6 of the world's 137 societies. Hong Kong leads the world in another category. We have the highest life expectancy, with men average 81 years old, women 87 years old. For a small place like Hong Kong, these are amazing results. However, in terms of happiness, we actually lag far behind other developed and even developing countries. According to the World Happiness Index this year, conducted by UN annually, Hong Kong is ranked 76. Absolutely appalling. In other words, we are rich. We live the longest life, yet we are so unhappy. So what's the point of having such a long life? I think it reveals and highlights the unique role of BMS teaching. BMS stands for body, mind, spirit. Because I think happiness is a state of mind. Sustainable happiness does not come from outside. We better turn inward. We connect our inner resources and sacredness within. What Hong Kong really needs is perhaps a spiritual awakening movement. Especially when Hong Kong people are now very desperate, both politically and socially. This is the worst of all times. This is the best of all times. Spiritual awakening is not just about personal happiness. It transforms socio-political culture as well. Personal is political. In present-day Hong Kong, political antagonism and social fracture are hurting every one of us. This is perhaps the calling for BMS. When we begin to generate a pure mind for peace and love and practice it on a daily level, we are spreading a consciousness of self-coaching, self-awakening, and collective transformation. Our pure intention, together with our collective perseverance, will definitely create a better future for every one of us and the generation after. Spirituality is a movement that awakens every one of us. We learn to listen to our body, to our emotions, and to our souls, and connect purely to the source, capital S, the source. Only then we become the living example of inner peace. Without inner peace, there's no outer peace. I'm not saying anything new here, because for the last few decades, many spiritual practitioners in Hong Kong have been humbly serving our society. What we need now is perhaps to mobilize, to leverage, and to generate a new culture, which is a new social consciousness and spiritual movement that aligns with the universe. We start from where we are. We start from ourselves. My dream is that one day there will be meditation class in all primary and secondary schools in Hong Kong. School teachers, policemen, nurses, and even prisoners practice meditation regularly. Mindful eating will become a trend for local restaurants. Mindful corporate becomes a branding strategy for local business. Mindful parenting becomes common sense. And mindful living becomes a norm in Hong Kong. Such a spiritual awakening movement might even inspire mainland China, because the real challenge for humanity is not material poverty, but emotional and spiritual poverty. Money, power, and greed are often the source of suffering rather than happiness. That's why we're here today. This is a small forum with profound meaning, where we are not trying to change the world, because there's no outside world to be changed. Everything is a projection of our mind. Be the change we want to see in this world. Be the servant leader we often hope for the outside world. In this regard, I feel that we can be more courageous and vigorous. We can have more courageous and vigorous reflection on the role of BMS teachings. Perhaps we need more collective awakening and alliances among ourselves. We need to prioritize integrity and authenticity as BMS trainers. We need to upgrade our professional benchmark and pay rigorous due diligence in our daily professional practice. Perhaps we need to ask ourselves honestly, what is our real intention to become a spiritual teacher? Let's learn to be more conscious and cautious of our own ego, because glamour, status, and vanity could lead to our ultimate defeat. Our first duty as BMS teacher is perhaps a continual discipline of pure connection with the source on a daily level. The purity and clarity of the connection with the source will ultimately determine our destiny. That's not an easy task, and that's why we're here today. Finally, I would like to throw out 5 questions to consider together. First, could we have regular seminars to develop these crucial issues? These seminars can solicit resources from different parties. We can generate a synergy of mutual support, empowerment, and oneness, which could be the solid foundation for a spiritual awakening movement. Second, could we create more bridging and dialogues between the English-speaking and the Chinese-speaking communities of trainers, therapists, and spiritual teachers? This will help us leverage on each other much better and develop a community of spiritual practitioners from different perspectives. Third, could we form strategic alliance with the corporate world to generate a corporate culture of spirituality? It is perhaps no accident that we reside in a money-driven city here, and finally we end up as BMS teachers. Could we explore more vigorously the BMS perspective on politics and social movement? Because now many Hong Kong people are now suffering from disengagement and fatigue of politics. Spiritual teachers could share the practical tools to empower the public for self-coaching. Finally, the fifth, could we align more systematically and smoothly to upgrade our professional due diligence so as to generate quality benchmark for the BMS profession? I hope my rough ideas can trigger and solicit more people to contribute to this awakening movement. Hopefully, today's forum could spread ripples of compassion and commitment for the betterment of ourselves and the society at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Second speaker this afternoon, Sakala.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sakala. I come from Taiwan. I was born, brought up in Taiwan, but I married to Hong Kong. Yes. Okay. So today is the topic when Washan gave to me is about the spiritual teacher, what we can contribute to the society. So for me, I'm engaging for the New Age movement. I think I'm passionate for that for the past 30 years. So when I'm studying about the history, I think the world is changing, and then the consciousness of the entire world is awakening. So we know that from the the earlier era is Pisces era, and then right now is Aquarius age. So that was back to 1960. So starting from the States. So at that time, I mean, a lot of spiritual movement, and also accompanied with a personal empowerment workshop movement like Life Spring and Life Dynamic and Asia Works, so on. And then the trend, I think this trend, this wave is going up and up, and then we are on the wave, yeah. And then until now, I observed that, I mean, as in Hong Kong, in Asia, Hong Kong is the most freedom country. It's such a tiny place, but we have so many of activities. And then we look at the spiritual development, starting from, in Asia. And I think that for the New Age movement, for the past 30 years, it's already been on the earth, everywhere on the earth, is arising, is blooming. We can see the scenario over the world. We see that in Russia, there's a lot of natural village, like I think what's the name? The Anastasia. Anastasia in Asia, in Russia, is already the village over thousands of self-serving villages, and the trend already passed over to Europe, to USA. That is Anastasia. And then in Taiwan, I just talked with my very good friend there, and then right now they are letting go of the old concept of spirituality. What does that mean? For the past 30 years, we already learned so many of the different modality, different training. But what's now? What is happening now? What we should do? So I talked to one of the leaders in Taiwan. What they say is they are shifting the consciousness, the knowledge of what was the spirituality. So I am asking myself, what does that mean? What can that contribute to us here in Hong Kong? So I observed myself for the spirituality, that why I am myself so much keen to the knowledge of the discovery. Then I realized that for the spiritual learning, there is a 3 level. Okay, I think right now we are on the 2nd level to the 3rd level. So the first level is I just got this information. Okay, the first level is self-discovery, healing. Okay, that is a self level. We are discovering the truth, the reality of the earth. This is a self level. This is the first level. Then the 2nd level. Right now we are stepping from 1st level to 2nd level. 2nd level is cosmic reality. So cosmic reality, that is we connect with the universe, the source, the energy, the Tao, the power. Okay, right now I think the 3rd level is the ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is who we really are. What is the being? What is the real essence? So I think for the past 30 years, the spiritual development already been through 1st and 2nd levels. Right now, the earth is awakening. The people are awakening. We are looking for more and more. Okay, so talking about in Taiwan, so a lot of spiritual teachers and healers, they are abandon all of the old culture of the spirituality. That means that cannot serve too many people. So what's the new strategy is rooting to the children education. We bring the new consciousness, because what the beauty of the new age is everybody is free. The beauty is we have our own independence. The beauty is we find the true self. So for example, in Taiwan, they have their own education system grouped by the parents. Okay, they have their own farming, they have their own agriculture. So this is happening in Taiwan now. Okay, we look at the facts. I think that can be the example for us to learn. Okay, in China, there are many of the big, spiritual platform. So every platform, maybe they have 50 teachers or 100 teachers. They gather together and then they broadcasting online teaching every day, non-stop. That is happening in China. So back now, what can we do here in Hong Kong? So I'm asking myself, today we have a forum here, and then can we really enjoy our life? Okay, what is the meaning of life? The life is really to enjoy, to love ourselves, to find the true love, and then to really nurturing ourselves. And then we live in a different lifestyle, because New Age movement is a different culture. But that is not happening outside, it's happening here, from me. If it is not me, who will be? If it is not now, when? So I like the style of as above, so below, as within, so without. So I think I'm very honored, very grateful to be in Hong Kong now, because in Hong Kong there's a BMSP, that is a body, mind, spiritual platform. In Asia, there's no place like Hong Kong. There is a union. In Taiwan, no. In China, no. But in Hong Kong. So what we can do is BMSP can be the non-profit organization. It is now, but we can collaborate with a different expert. Like Taiwan, they collaborate with different, because every expert, every field, they are experts. So in Taiwan, they cooperate with education seniors, with environmental seniors, with education, with agriculture seniors. They cooperate with different groups. And then we just have the lifestyle, the wisdom of the new age, body, mind, and soul, and then really grounded to our life. And then I believe that in Hong Kong, we have different Anastasia. I believe that we have more of the world of school, and then we can create our own future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm the transition between the local and the because actually I was born in Canada, but I've lived here more than 25 years now, and all of my my business has always been here. Also, I came in my normal disguise because I work in the corporate world. So I think it's so perfect. I got to rush in late, wear a suit, you know. This is so much what Hong Kong is normally about, right? So I'm so happy to be here to be able to represent this another side of spirituality. And I'm not a spiritual teacher, but actually spirituality is very important in the work I do. It's not something I ever talk about with my clients, or very, very rarely. But definitely what I do is spiritual. Of course, spirit is not disconnected anyway, right? But I know very deeply that it's part of my work, and probably the most powerful part. I call my business Loving Your Work. And this is because those are very important words to me. Love, of course, can have a capital L in a very important way. And also work, because our work can be capital W work. You know, what we do in the world is that important. I work mostly with international people based here in Hong Kong. And also, well, international people includes, of course, Chinese and Hong Kong people. This is such an international community, and people here work and connect. I think it's a very unique thing about Hong Kong, actually, is that it's the amount of connection to the outside world. I work mostly on leadership development. Connects with some things you've been saying, Santa. So both organizational leadership development and also self-leadership. So that could be about finding career path and finding your work. The most, one way to describe what I do is that it's developing more mature levels of consciousness. That's what all of this work is about, more mature levels of consciousness, and actually use theoretical models and very robust and well-researched models about what are more mature levels of consciousness. Developing more mature levels of consciousness sounds really good, right? Like leaders want that. Okay, good, that's what we want. We want to attract people in the corporate world and the business world to want to develop for their reasons, for very good reasons. And then there's basically three aspects of maturity and maturing consciousness. And the first is deepening self-awareness. Self-awareness is the foundation of personal development. And of course, as you look deeper and deeper into the self, we start with the surface aspects, and then we get into the bigger and bigger self. It's also part of that development, although very few of my clients are there. Most of them are really developing themselves, understanding their personality. So we start with the body, emotions, patterns and habits, moods and motivations. And then we progress also to developing intuition and risk-taking or fearlessness. This is all spiritual development. A second aspect of maturity is broadening our scope of concern. So as we become more mature, we naturally become more concerned about wider things than just ourselves. So in the corporate world, we start with myself as an employee or as a worker, and then we would go to my team and my department and my company and my society, and then the entire environment of the world. And so this is a really big part of my goal, is to help the people I work with broaden their scope of concern, because inevitably this is also a spiritual development. You could call it moral development. And then the third thing that I added in when I wrote this speech was about increasing presence, because this is something a lot of leaders want. They want to have a lot more presence, but it's also one of those capital words, right? Capital P, presence, is something that we can tap into to make a difference. And that is one of the secrets of spiritual development, is that we can tap into that capital P power and make a difference. Okay, the second page is about the opportunity, the risks, and the traps and issues for teachers. The opportunity, I think we heard already so many exciting things about the opportunity, and I want to reiterate that, well, actually a little bit extra thing is that leadership development is now quite suddenly within the last 2 years becoming more and more crucial in the corporate world. So it used to be a kind of a nice to have, but literally just recently a lot of organizational leaders are realizing how important it is, because they cannot compete internationally. And when we're looking at artificial intelligence and digitization, then they see the need for more leadership maturity. It's really crucial. So that really helps us. And the other, help hindrance is the fact that so many of our global and societal systems are likely to collapse because they're not working. It's so obvious. They will need to change dramatically. Most likely they'll collapse in some way or another. So this is, of course, an opportunity for us. And I think, to me, the simplest thing that we can do about that is to know what we want. Because if we know what we want, then we can move more quickly to create the next thing that will happen whenever different systems collapse. What we want is connected in, isn't it? It's very deep, what we want. And then also the opportunity is just the fact that mindsets are changing so quickly, as I said, in the corporate world, and I think you can see this supported by scientific discoveries and interest in neuroscience, interest in practices like mindfulness, and even in technology, how technology can help us to develop ourselves more quickly and to mature ourselves. I want to talk a little bit about the traps and issues for teachers. This is something that was on the agenda that I was allowed to talk about today. So, and then really there's 3 things. There's 2 things we've already been mentioned, but to reiterate, I think it's so important that we're always developing ourselves first, that we put ourselves first for development for 2 reasons, because we need to be in integrity, and second, because it's actually the easiest way for us to make a difference. It's the fastest path to what we want. The second thing is about staying humble and which is, I think, always a challenge, and I think something that we can really help each other with, and I think that's why Stay Connected like this is a really good idea, so that we can connect to each other and talk, also to be able to talk to other people that are at similar levels of maturity and that can understand consciousness in ways we can have more mutual conversations, which could be very enlivening. And then the other thing is really actually a personal sharing, because something that I've realized myself over the last year or 2 years, especially the last year, which is this thing what I could call being too humble or naive. And other words for this are golden shadow, pre-trance fallacy. So what I mean is that we can also be taken in by people who have things that we don't. So if we're, for example, many of us are more soft-spoken, more caring, and maybe not so confident or lacking in power, and then we may idolize people who seem to have more power than us, and we may not be seeing clearly. And then we can get taken in and not really bringing our full selves forward in a way that compares. It's quite easy to do at certain levels of development to be able to be fooled by people who are at lower levels than us and seeing them as better than us, because we're humble, right? So we see people that are better than us when they may not be. And this is one of the reasons that I've been studying these levels of development I was talking about, to understand more fully who people are, and to be able to see clearly who people are, so that I can be more effective in my own actions. I think I love the suggestions earlier about how we can work together. I want to hear from so many more people in this room about what we can do in that regard, and so I just want to encourage it. I just want to say that this whole thing about the patterns of level of development could be a way that I would love to contribute to other people investigating in these areas.
Hi, I'm Danny Krisigara, founder of Freedom One International Executive Coaching and Business Consulting. I just flew in last night from LS. I'm totally jet lagged, 15 hours, so if I make a mistake, please don't mind it. But I think I was quite honored that I was asked to come and speak here today, and I think it's a very important thing, an important topic we're discussing about, spiritual development in Hong Kong especially, and even Greater China and Japan. Considering the fact that I have been in the corporate world myself for the past 18 years, and although I had a lot of success, I enjoyed all that success, and I've traveled across 5 different countries, but I still found that I was not feeling fulfilled. So my level of fulfillment, because of probably lack of spirituality, I don't know what the reason was, but it was somewhere much lower than just material success. So I went on this journey to find out about what's going to really make me happy. Because if I'm going to teach something, I need to embody it myself. So just to kind of talk a little bit about my own personal journey, is in 2010 when I was in Hong Kong, and I was feeling rather unfulfilled with my corporate career, regardless of all the success. I knew that success without fulfillment was the biggest failure. So that's something, was a journey that I really embarked on. And I remember I said it to Santa as well before that. A few months down the line, I was in a bookstore with my 3 daughters, and I'm more of a movie guy. I like movies. I'm not into books so much. But while they were kind of moving around and having a good time with their books, I was around the spirituality section looking for a book by Deepak Chopra. And as I pulled out a book, another one fell down to the floor, and I picked it up. It was called Secrets of the Light by a guy called Daniel Brinkley. And I looked at it, I was quite fascinated. He was on HBO, CNN, and a movie was made in his respect. He was on Larry King. I said, that's pretty cool. I sat down on the floor and started reading it. And it was about this guy who had 3 NDEs. NDEs is near-death experiences, and he comes back. I sat down on the floor and I was reading it for the last 30 minutes. When I looked up, I saw a security guard staring at me. Then I'm going to just read the book and run away. But there was something in that text that really got me very interested, and so I decided to call the guy up. I found his number through another friend of mine in Los Angeles, and I remember 7 a.m. in Hong Kong time, I called Danny, and while I was dialing his number, I was thinking, what am I going to say to him? Who is Danny from Hong Kong? Who the hell is he? But he picked up the phone and I said, hi Daniel, my name is Danny. And he said, I was waiting for your call. And when he said that, I had goosebumps all over me. For the first 15 seconds, I forgot what I was going to say to him. I forgot why I even called him up. But to cut the long story short, I was thinking I would speak to him for about 10-15 minutes. We spoke for an hour and a half. And the crux of that was that I had to do something bigger than what I was doing right now. So in order for me to become more fulfilled, I needed to do something different than what I was doing right now, which is why I started on this journey of personal development and started my own executive coaching consulting company because I wanted to impact more people. My goal is to impact 50,000 people in 5 years, and through books, movies, or through seminars, I'm taking one step at a time. But the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I think the community and the society, not just in Hong Kong but across the world, has lost focus. Has lost focus because of stress, because of other demands, maintaining a particular lifestyle, and all that's good. But I think what we need to do is really change the focus of people into something that's more real. It doesn't mean you don't have fun, doesn't mean you don't have a good lifestyle, but we need to change our focus to something that's more real. And I'm going to just talk about 3 things that I found based on my personal experience, why it was so important, which I want to share with you right now. And probably people in Hong Kong might benefit from it. The first thing is about, finding your life purpose. Because when you find your life purpose, the thing you get is clarity. And clarity is the most important thing you could ever get in any decision you make. Clarity in how you grow and how you give. 2 things very important, growing and giving. You grow for yourself and you give to others, very important. So once you get clear on your life purpose, things start flowing much easier. And that's what we call, which is the second point, and I would say that's called alignment. Alignment or congruence. You need to be aligned with what it is that you want, at a soul level, at a mind level, and at a physical level as well. When people are in alignment, or what you call congruence, that's when success, happiness, and fulfillment becomes effortless. And I found that in my own life in the last years when I kind of shifted my focus from doing something different to doing what I'm doing right now. Incorporating things like meditation, incorporating things like visualization, affirmations, just basic, very small success habits or rituals that you do on a daily basis that can change the trajectory of your life significantly. Really, I tell you, it's simple and it's very doable. And the third thing I found, which was very important and necessary for me, was taking inspired action. Now, there's a difference between taking action and inspired action. And action is something people do every single day and are very busy being busy, but at the end of the day, they don't get much outcome from it. But when you look at inspired action, it's basically comes from it's a spiritual concept where you get an inspiration, an idea, and you act upon it because there's a vortex of energy around that. And when you act on it, that's when you see the results immediately. So 3 things are really important based on what I see. One is getting clear on your purpose, getting aligned with what you want, and number 3 is taking inspired action. Very simple and basic things we could do just on a daily basis, and you'll see the trajectory of your life moving in a very different direction. I know everyone's talked about how we can get together, how coaches, people, and the community as together can make a big difference in society, and I think we can, and definitely we can. I just wrote this new book which was called Inside Out, 8 Success Keys to Help Millennials Thrive. And Inside Out is all how your thoughts and your feelings can determine your outside reality. Because most of the time what happens is people allow the outside external environment to determine how they feel inside. Yeah? So what I believe is that once you start growing your inner self, become more self-aware, that's when you will change the world outside. Your situations will change, your outcomes will change as well. So thank you very much. If there's any questions you have, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
That's not fair. You said all I wanted to say. Well, I wanted to be the first one to say all these things about Anastasia and about the golden shadow and all these concepts. I'm really happy to be here. I'm really honored to be here. It's actually my second time this year. We are here in January and we had some workshops. My name is Daniel Miguel. I'm teaching all over the world. This is a very sensitive subject, spiritual teaching in Hong Kong and the teachers in Hong Kong. And I think it's going down really to the basic things. Well, I really heard you repeating continuously. Like simple things like to have a green community, Anastasia, and I met Vladimir, a very good friend of Vladimir, who wrote the books, and Anastasia came twice in my workshop in Moscow. We see this great master, so I really felt my heart open. And things that are simple and easy to do. I'm surprised how complex the life is here in Hong Kong. Really, I'm very surprised. People complicate things so much, and when the things are so simple. No, I was in the biggest college in Europe, in Hadeland, near Oslo, in Norway. They invited me to speak with the children, like thousands of children. I was there with my wife, and we were teaching. My wife was teaching these things from Hartman Institute and all very scientific, and then it came my turn to speak about spiritual things, you know. So it was really funny because one of the questions was, so imagine if the aliens are coming now, what will you say about us? One of the child asked me this question. I was thinking, so if somebody comes in a UFO now on this planet and analyze what we are doing like humans, it's really funny, isn't it? We are working like dogs from the morning until night. We make money continuously, and then we go to doctors to spend this money because we are sick, right? And all our life we are trying to have houses and cars and all this stuff, and suddenly you realize you arrive at that level when something else is needed, you know. So I spoke with these children and I told them from my heart, that was my opinion. Of course, behind me there were the teachers and the principal of the school. I'm sure they were happy because after that they asked me about life after death and all these questions. But I would say, and that's really is happening in Hong Kong. People don't stop. You know, we are running and running and running. It's a continuous run. You know, you just need to stop just for a moment. Just inhale, exhale, stop. Whenever I'm here, I'm enjoying this. We are in this beautiful place, this hotel, and we have these mountains behind me. Ovolo Hotel in the south area there. And I stay 1 hour and I watch the eagles. We have the most beautiful eagles on this planet, you know. I saw the same eagles in Arizona and all these Rocky Mountains. The people should stop, just stop for 1 moment and look up there and see the tall trees and see these eagles family. They are flying all together. And last time in January I was here at this hotel Hyatt, and I looked up at the eagles, and the security guard came. Did you see something? We were thinking it's some terrorist people. I said, no, the eagles. So yeah, the eagles. I said, never mind, it's okay. He really thought I'm crazy, you know. So I would say the first thing is here people really need to stop from this craziness. It's important to make money and run and make business. Sometimes you need to stop and just inhale and exhale and enjoy life. Just look at this children playing. Go out there, drink a beer, eat an ice cream. Just enjoy life. What is more important? And another important thing, they invited me this year to United Nations to Vienna, a politician. They asked me to give a speech where they read my books. They asked me to speak about remember who you really are, which was a very important topic, you know, in front of all these big names there. I really felt, you know, it was interesting for me to have that experience to be in United Nations, you know, the windows there are like half meter, you know. It's very interesting. When you get there, it's like in the airport. Like, for me, it was a shock, you know, to see how people can live in this, how can work in this condition. Just air conditioning, you can't see all this completely locked, you know. But I really believe we have to remember who we really are. If we remember who we really are, and that's not coming from outside. Anybody can tell you are a good writer or a good manager or a leader or whatever you want. But if you do not see yourself who you really are, nothing has sense in your life, right? And this is really important for spiritual teachers here. You know. I was really happy Dr. Simon, they organized in January this, we were like, I think like 100 healers here and spiritual teachers. And it was very interesting to see how they connected each other. You know. When I got here in Hong Kong a couple of years, actually I was here in 1988, I was first here. 1988, I was here in Hong Kong, in Shanghai. But in the last couple of years, I'm coming here, and there is this, the teachers here are shy. They think it's coming me, Daniel, from Canada, from London. He's a great master. No, you are all great masters. You are so good, you know. You don't need us. I don't know who else to come here to teach you. You are, and I've noticed that. You know, people here, they really believe. And in China, it's the same thing. You know, it's ironic. The Chinese, they have the best great master in the world, the Taoists. They are older than Egyptian, you know. The Taoist system is older than Egyptian system. And all they are in awe is coming from Canada, all. But they have this, I was in Zhuhai to see this great master, that he is Qigong great master. He's 70 years and he jumps on a table and he goes back. He's doing this pakwa, you know, pakwa, palms, right? And he's 70 years old, he's moving like 2 hours in this circle, and then he jumps on the tables and back with the cats. He trains himself with the cats. And I was going there to teach. I really felt ashamed. I didn't know what to say. I just wanted to run. Me going to China to teach in Hong Kong, where you have one of the oldest and the most powerful ancient system on this planet, maybe the oldest. And the Taoists, by the way, it's all the Sumerian tablets, like 20,000 years ago, they have clear indication about what was going on here. So that was before Egyptians and the pyramids, guys. So here it's a golden place, you know. People are asking why you are going to teach in Hong Kong. I said because I learn a lot of things from Hong Kong. So about teaching, I learn things. People are different. They are pure in their heart in a different way, you know. And this is a great thing. And I see great teachers, sometimes Simon or Sean, that are doing here such amazing things, you know. So I would say, stay how you are. Go in your heart. This is very important. Open your heart. enjoy each moment of your life. And remember one thing, the children are very important. And the business people. We, let's say the spiritual people, we meditate. But if you don't try to change the children, and you don't try to change the business people, it's a huge gap between what somebody meditates, and I know I was CEO in LG, I had helicopters, not cars. I was an executive in a big company, long time ago. And then I was 4 years in Tibet, and I was there with the monks, and I changed the way I was. So basically, the business is very simple, you know. And business people, it's interesting, when I do spiritual workshops, I have people coming and ask, what are you doing? I'm the CEO in these companies, but they are listening to me. They don't want anybody to hear. They are coming to do a spiritual workshop. They're like, they are ashamed. When I'm doing workshop, because we went to Shenzhen to teach in IKEA. IKEA headquarters, we invited us to teach stress management. And they were whispering to me, oh, I'm doing yoga. So it's the other way around. The spiritual workshop, they don't want to say they are working in business. In business, when I teach, they don't want to say home we are doing spiritual exercises. So it's nothing to be ashamed. And I think they are working together. And here is one of the best places where you can experience that. Well, I love you from all my heart. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. After these brilliant presentations, I would like to use my privilege with the microphone in my hand to ask one question and to be enlightened by our distinguished speakers. My question is that you just mentioned that this is a golden place. And we are here to experience all kinds of excitement. But to us, as you all know, this is mental asylum. This is a giant pressure cooker. This is a giant casino. And this is the prison with very tiny cells. But how can we, as spiritual teachers, take good care of ourselves before we take care of all of our clients? I'm talking about self-nourishment, for example. How can we grow before we give? Do we have some suggestions before we open up to the floor? Sandra, thank you.
Well, I want to ask Simon, when you said that your first question mentioned about this is a golden place, like Daniel mentioned about that. But for you, this is you have a different point of view, right? So is this the first question? And the second question, sorry.
I think this is at the same time a golden place and a terrible place. This is the best of time and this is the worst of time.
So I would like to share something, because what I just mentioned is that before it's a different era. Right now, this is not only happening in Hong Kong. I always remind myself, not only happen in Hong Kong, happen everywhere. So we know that if the consciousness is arising, there's a huge transition, and this is a giant leap. So in this period of time, everything will happen. So we will, as a human being, for me, I remind myself, because we all have huge ego. When I turn on the TV, everything is very nasty, very bad. So what can I do? I only remind myself, this is only the transitional time. We know that from the era of the Pisces to the Aquarius age, it's a huge journey, huge leap. We are on the leap. Either we choose to stand on the feet on this river, on this time, or we let go. So I remind myself. So we know that in Hong Kong, okay, not only in Hong Kong, in everywhere, But in Hong Kong, we have the best, we have the worst. We can say that. We have a Western, we have an Eastern. We have an ancient, we have a modern. Everything is a complex place. That is the advantage of where we are. I mentioned that Hong Kong is one of the most freedom countries on the earth. So look at the good part. So in such a tiny place, we have so much of a creativity. What else? The else is leave all to us. This is my share. Thank you.
Any more enlightenment regarding self-management?
So I would say it's very important, and Dr. Simon knows better than everyone. First, you have to take care of yourself, what you are eating. And here we have a really good example with raw vegan food that you promote, and so you really have to you have to start with basics. People, they want to levitate. They just think I'm going to inhale and exhale 10 times and suddenly I will go up on it's not like that. Spiritual is like a job. You have to go each level. And you heard the other colleagues, we were talking about levels. You really have to go levels. You have to take care of yourself. You have to exercise. You have to listen to good music. You have to eat the good food. You have to be happy. So simple things, and these simple things are doing the basics. So if we start with these simple things, and here it's very important because like any other place on the planet, you go outside and you have all these restaurants with junk food and all this stuff. So you really have to learn the basic and to respect the basic, because this is the law of the nature. You cannot put a child to be in an airplane, to pilot an airplane. It's impossible. You have to start with the basics. So you have to take care of your body, your mind, and then of your spirit. So all these steps, body, mind, spirit, exactly like the name of the platform, this should come in exactly in this order. And things then are coming in a natural way. It is not out of nowhere, You have to work a little bit. And in spirituality, I can tell you it's a heavy work. You really have to meditate. You really have to be all the time connected with yourself. There is a good proverb here. It is say, a small deviation from the way brings you miles away. So you have to really try to be on the path as much as possible.
I can add to what Daniel was saying. It's a very key point. And the way I look at it is looking at the conscious mind versus the subconscious and unconscious mind. And the metaphor I would use is if you look at, you say you've got 100 horses. So 15 horses are pulling you this side, 85 horses are pulling you that side. So 15 is your conscious mind, 85 is your unconscious mind. Eventually what will happen is that the 85 will be able to pull all the 15 to the other side. So when I work with corporate leaders, and one guarantee I give is that I'll make them more successful and happier in 18 months or less. The biggest thing I work on is their subconscious and their unconscious mind. Because once you get that right, the rest becomes much easier. So if you really want to transcend in spirituality or even in your material lives, train your unconscious and your subconscious mind first, and that's where your secret lies. Thank you.
I just noticed that I found that so stimulating listening to these two men share those ideas, and I was thinking myself about the importance of following your own path, and that to me that's been always very important. That and also that's my approach with my clients, is that we need to find our own path actually, and that we can use the clues that have come before us, and there's so much knowledge, but at the end of the day we have to find our own path. And then it's so interesting that this idea about conscious and unconscious, because sometimes it's the unconscious that guides us to the path actually, right? Our playfulness, our curiosity, our interest, it comes naturally from ourselves. And on the other hand, there's all the dark side of the unconscious. So then we have to use our discipline, and then we have to keep building on our ability to have discipline and to use things by choice, not by following blindly the system or the steps or the process, but by choosing to follow a system that will then help us to get further to what we want: discipline and playfulness.
Thanks for the question. I think as a BMS teacher, I think it's truly crucial that we practice what we teach. I truly believe that everything is projection of the mind. Therefore, I think a crucial lesson for us is to purify our mind on a daily level. I would say appreciate and esteem every setback that we have. Appreciate and esteem every adversity that we have. Esteem and appreciate every suffering that we have, until we see through and see beyond and go beyond our own suffering. Otherwise, we're just faking. Otherwise, we don't have power to empower the people that we encounter. And until then, we'll believe that pure minds sees pure things. Impure mind perceive impurities. So our lesson as BMS teaching is to purify our mind in the most humbling and everyday level. Thank you.
Shall we open? Yes. Do we have suggestions, questions, feedback from the floor?
So I heard a lot about spirituality, right? I want to actually hear from each speaker what you understand to be spirituality.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I missed it.
So I want to understand, we were talking about spirituality, but you actually might mean different things, right? So what do you mean by spirituality? What is that for you?
I get this. First off, relax. To me, it just means beyond understanding. So anything that's beyond understanding is spirituality.
Well, I would say it's basically connection to source, connection with your higher self, having alignment with your mind, body, and spirit. And I think, like you must have heard, we are already spiritual beings having a human experience. There's nothing that we have to create or become. We already are. We've just forgotten who we are. So we're kind of going back instead of going forward. Make sense?
I agree with you.
That's the easy way out.
I'm with you.
That's the easy way
I believe if we are really who we really are, and we are in our heart, and we are honest with ourselves, that's the most important. That's being spiritual.
When I find the information, I like the information about the ultimate reality. So ultimate reality, for my understanding, is from a constant research of who I am through different processes, through different modality of the healing, training, whatever, and then connect with the source. And then, at that moment, this is my understanding because I just find out this now. I want to practice it now when I declare. Yeah. So ultimate reality is when I really know who I am, and then I connect. I mean, very true to myself, body, mind, and soul, and connect with the universe. And everything in front of me that is happen to be, then I accept that, no matter what it is. And from that point to the ultimate reality, that is where I'm going to. Then the ultimate reality, if I am connecting with the source, so what happened in front of me, so be it. I am going for that. So I can be the creator. I can be the source. I am coming from there. So I think this is a whole process of the spirituality. This is what I'm looking for. Thank you.
For me, spirituality starts with the here and now. I think when we, for inhale and exhale, when we be mindful of the here and now, it's the beginning of the spirituality. Because at the point, and only at the point we start to suspend the outside world and go and turn inward. And what I really like today is the seven speakers just now also grant spirituality in a more mundane afterlife level, like the mature level of consciousness. That's really good for the corporate world. Because after all, we are in a commercial city, and so it's crucial that for me, spirituality practice and permeates in everyday level, in everywhere. Everyone can be a spiritual practitioner. It's not just professional. We as a BMS teacher, it's just a social role. We are not necessarily spiritual. It's just a role, a social role, and with nothing more than that. So it's crucial that we come back to our inner self, inner being, to attain inner joy and inner peace. And after all, happiness is a state of mind. So I think for me, spirituality is the journey to turn inward.
Well, I think I know what's happening. Looking into your eyes, I realized that 10 minutes ago, every one of us understood spirituality. Now, after 5 different versions, our life became so complicated. If I may, I would like to suggest one simple way out. Just remember me. I'm Simon, and my family name is Chuck. So it's SC, okay? SC stands for stay connected. It stands for soul consciousness. That to me is spirituality. Thank you. Life and simple.
Can I ask a question? Thank you all for. I'm so grateful for this very rare occasion, and so many thanks to BSMP for organizing this event. We've been talking about spiritual teachers, and so spiritual teachers have spiritual teachers, right? So I am kind of curious what kind of teachers you've been following, or whether there is one spiritual teacher who really influenced you in making who you are today. So if you could, I would love to hear. Thank you.
Okay, I share. I think I like. I think from the New Age movement, I like personally very fond of A Course in Light, A Course in Miracle. So for me, they are like two hands. They are like Chinese two weapons. A Course in Light, A Course in Miracle. So A Course in Miracle for me is we don't need to do anything, and we just know who we are, but we forget the way home. A Course in Miracle. So like Danny said, we don't need to do anything. We just find a way home. This is A Course in Miracle, and A Course in Light is also A Course in Miracle is we remember that we are the inheritance from the universe, from the Almighty universe. So we are from the Creator. We are the extension. We can say that we are God, but sometimes that is misunderstanding. We are delivered from God. Okay, we are the vehicle. So if anything in front of us, so if that meant to be, that has to be. So we are just the vehicle. So that is A Course in Miracle. I really love that a lot. And A Course in Light is that through the light and love, to really purify us, to heal us, and then to be the very pure vehicle, to connect with angelic consciousness and the pure consciousness. This is my sharing. Thank you.
I'm someone very curious and very open. So my favorite teacher is the current one, the last one. But actually I'm always changing and I'm always exploring more. So I think what might be more instructive is just to look at my whole path. From 35 years ago, I picked up a pamphlet in a restaurant about Buddhism. This is back in Canada. I thought it was so cool. I thought, wow, that is nothing I'd ever thought of before. And I remember, I think it's so funny to me because I remember thinking, I would never have a life like that. I could, although it's so cool, but how could I ever? That would be impossible, you know, to meditate and things like that. And but then that's like a, you know, a little bolt of lightning from a long time ago. But then really my path has been about my career, because I wanted to have a career in Hong Kong. I had to have a big change. I discovered coaching. I went through so many coach training programs, almost read every book, and had my own several different coaches along the way, and always changing and always something new. And then I got interested in mindfulness training, and then spirituality, and it's like the self all the way down, you know. So I just, I know my current interest and teacher will fall away, and there'll be another one. Endless.
Well, I think, you know, it's like Angela said, it's about curiosity, and there's a saying that says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So, you know, at different points in time, I've personally worked with different people. I worked a lot with Jack Canfield, the guy who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. He's one of my mentors. I worked with sometime with Peter Sage, Neil Donald Walsh, the guy who wrote Conversations with God. Some part of the work I did with Tony Robbins. But I think it depends what you're looking for, how curious you are, what path you are on, and at different points in time, different people appear in your life. It could be something you read in a book, it could be something you read in a scripture, it could be something you hear from a mentor or a coach or a spiritual leader. I'm very fond of the Dalai Lama as well. If you read his book, The Art of Happiness, it's a beautiful book to read. So, you know, it's not something, I won't say something singular, but it's learning is a process. You know, each time you learn something new, you go higher and higher and higher, and nobody's perfect, so it's just a journey, I guess. Yeah.
I was really lucky in my life to have really good, great masters that really took care of me and helped me a lot. I can say that I'm really lazy, so they pushed me always to that edge when, you know, you have just one step and you go in unknown. So I could make that leap of faith. And the Tibetan great master and Lady Anna and Rambo Melchizedek and Osho and Anastasia. So I met some really good great masters on my life, and I saw different things we were doing. In Tibet, we were appearing, disappearing, or levitating, and all this stuff. I never tried to copy, honestly. I always try to do what I feel in my heart, and I always try to be what I really am, how I am. And I love to take whatever was the best from the experience. I love Course in Miracles, one of my favorite books. If you run here, I read continuously these two books. Basically, I really believe we arrive at that stage, and you already underlined this, when it's good also to listen to yourself, because sometimes we have this, I call runners, they bring you a book, or they bring you a training or a workshop, and it's out of nowhere, but that might change your life. So don't believe you really need to go to that huge great master, or sometimes there are simple things that can really change you. So a lot of things. Sometimes I'm watching a cat like 1 hour, and I'm trying, because I was European champion in karate, you know, so I'm looking how the cat is walking, and I think this is the best master that I can have. You know? Just looking at the movement of the cat and how beautiful she's moving, and the energy in the body of that animal, you know, it's amazing. So this is also a teacher. You can think of really.
The first time I decided to be or try to become a BMS teacher, that's around 14, 15 years ago, and I told my spiritual teacher. At that point I was very excited. I share my dream to him. And then his response is really stunning to me and disappointing. He told me, Washan, only when you realize that you are underneath the cupboard, then you can be a teacher. And then he ran away. I always keep this in mind. It's a very stunning and very striking reminder for me. I think the lesson is really for me because I always has a big fat ego. Recently, I have another spiritual teacher that I really like, and that's Adyashanti. And Adyashanti keep reminding something that really inspiring to me. He keeps saying that the first thing that we grab and we attach to after we are waking is to grab the me that being awakened. And of course, I'm not awakened yet, but then it's a very helpful reminder for me that I keep reminding myself, no matter what kind of apparent success that I have in everyday life practices, I ask myself, do I take it as a pride, as an ego, as a vanity, or do I take it to empower other people? Thank you.
For me, if the question is who taught you most about life and living, my answer would be two of them. One is in this room. The first one is my cat. The reason, well, you heard from Daniel. The second one is my daughter when she was 2 years old. Well, that's it.
Simon's daughter is here. Okay, be careful.
About what? Do we have more feedback or questions? Yes.
Thank you. So, hello, my name is Gary. First of all, thank you very much for your sharing from the panel. I could resonate a lot, and there were a lot of great insights. So, my question is more from, so personally, I've gone through quite a lot of courses, a lot of great teachers, so including Washan is one of them. I certainly have learned a lot from him. So now I'm currently also running my own courses as well, and I do have the awareness that we need to be aware of our own ego. Are we projecting our own problems to others? Do we really come from pure intention? So like now when I teach courses, I do feel that pleasure or enjoyment, but at times I just wonder from your experience, you have some checkpoints, like maybe for us as teachers, instructors ourselves to kind of remind ourselves at times, like, is this really sending out a pure energy out there, or are there times that we also need to be further aware of our own ego kind of taking place in the process?
Thank you.
You always have to be aware of your ego. You know how it takes you? Right when your life is more pink, suddenly your ego gets in and it takes you. So, Vashan said something important about being now and work with yourself. I believe if you teach, if you have students, you have to work at least 2, 3, 4 more times with your students. So if they meditate half an hour, you should meditate 2 hours. Understand? So that's at least my perspective, in a sense that if you really want to guide somebody else, this is a big responsibility, my opinion. I saw a lot of healers that are not healers. I saw a lot of teachers that are not teachers. I saw a lot of things that are not ethics in trainings, and I can tell you one thing. It all starts with you. The energy you put there, the love you put there, the way how you behave, the way how you teach, that really changes life. Because a spiritual teacher, in my opinion, is like somebody, a teacher with children. It's exactly this comparison, because you bring somebody and this person, they open their heart to you. So it's up to you to take it from that moment, and you grow and you grow and you grow and you help that person to become who you really are. If when you leave the workshop, if that person can do what you can do, you can say it's okay. If that person doesn't need you anymore and can practice what you are doing, that's a good training. If that person is lean on you and is calling you again and help me, you didn't do a good job. This is my perspective.
It's another really difficult question, I think. You know, we all are imperfect and always will be, but we can do our best. And so I think we really need to do our best. And I mean, I just echo what Daniel said in those terms. But also just to add the fact that we all have different capacities and different levels of people that we can work with. And I think this is another way we can be really helpful to ourselves, you know, to be in the flow of letting the right clients or the right students come. And then humility helps a lot there. But then you get the right connection. You know, as a very simple example, sometimes someone comes to me and I realize that they're too emotionally distressed, or they have some really bigger psychological barriers that I can't help them with, and I just have to be very, very honest about that and help them to find maybe some other type of help. And this is the kind of thing in this world we're talking about spiritual teachers, including me, who I'm not a spiritual teacher, but I think there's so much variety, so we need to just be mindful of that.
Thanks for the question. I think we all have ego. We don't need to be harsh on ourselves. There are two little things that is very helpful to me. First is to take refuge and give offering back to the source, to Buddha, to all your sacred deity. For me, I'll try my very best whenever I have any success that I have, any vanity, any achievement. I'll take refuge and offering, give it back to Buddha, and because it's not about me, and I cannot find me actually, and I do not possess anything. The more I possess, the more painful I will be. So I think this giving offering to the source, to the community, to the ancestors, or everyone is a good practice for me. Another thing is very good practice is I try to perceive, if everything is a projection of mind, it just all depends on my projection, how I perceive. I try to perceive literally all adversities and so-called enemies as emanation of Buddha. In the last year, interestingly, I was attacked quite horrendously and continuously by two different people in a very quite awful manner, continuously. And I try to perceive both of them as the emanation of Buddha. It helps me immensely. Otherwise, I'll attack back, for sure. But then because I perceive them as the emanation of Buddha, she is Buddha already, 10,000 years ago. She presented as such a nasty image just to help me. And so it's something, it sounds weird, but I really like it. The saying, fake it to make it. It's very helpful for me.
Thank you. Feedbacks? More questions?
I have a question.
Can I?
Yes, almost every spiritual teacher talks about this idea of unity and oneness, right? In reality, how can we achieve this?
There's nothing to achieve. You're there already.
Thanks, Angela. I think if I I like Virginia Satir saying, peace within, then peace between, then peace among. So if there's no inner peace, there's no outer peace. So I really like the practice of charity starts at home. So if you want oneness, we need to have oneness with ourselves and with our family members and beloved ones. Because it's very dangerous for us as BMS teacher. We have so many glamour and appreciation and projection and fantasy from our students, followers. It's so dangerous. We feel we feel good. We feel that, oh yes, I help you, I rescue another life, something like this. It's truly bullshit. And so I think it's really helpful that we need to be very humble in our relationship, especially with all our tough and intimate ones. Thank you.
I can just add one more thing, which is about the difficult relationships, that they are such fantastic teachers and such a blessing for us. Whenever we have those kind of challenges, especially close relationships that are difficult, then this is a fantastic place to work.
Yeah, I think I would totally agree with that, because every experience you have, whether it's a good or a bad one, in hindsight, when you look back, you know that taught you something, that made you a better person, that made you grow, it gave you a different experience. So I think every challenge you encounter, every difficulty you encounter, you're just basically growing. And maybe you might not see it at that point in time, but in hindsight, there's always something to learn and something to grow from that.
That's a really hard question. And to dissolve into nothingness, to become one with the Creator. It's all and nothing, It might take just one moment, and you become enlightened when you realize in that moment, you are in that moment, just in that moment, and all past and future doesn't exist. Or you might fight for lives, going from one experience to another, running, my opinion, after illusions, until you really stop and you will see, with the eye of the heart, I would say. So it's for some people it's a work in progress. So they work and work and work. For some people it's just like that, just the children, right? They are oneness. They just smile. Whatever they do in that moment, right? There's a reason they cannot drive a car. Do you see a child driving a car? No. They do one thing. They cannot do 10 things at the same time. To change the speed, to press the acceleration. It's impossible. So, and that's also I would say, the trap of society today, because we put masks, more masks. Because we have our family ones, and our boss at work, and our neighbors, So you are not really who you really are. The child is always natural, So it's a lot of work. Or if you abandon yourself, it's just like that. Oneness is just in that moment. Question is how much time it takes to be in oneness. That's a good question. If you arrive there, how much time you can stay there. One of my masters, she was working with me, Lady Anna, she said, the sands are not 24-hour sands, which is a really good thing to remember, So you have to keep continuously that pureness, and to watch yourself, and that's an important thing.
I'll just make one comment on oneness. Of course, I don't think everybody's there yet, but what I've found is that when you're doing something and you're experiencing joy, there's a lot of joy, there's a lot of peace. And I believe that when you're experiencing joy and peace, there is oneness there. Of course, we don't experience joy and peace 24 hours a day, but whenever you're doing something and it makes you feel really good about it, makes you more peaceful about it, I think that's where you feel you're on the right path. I'm not sure if that's oneness, but I would say that's a very good indicator that you're on the right track. Yeah.
I'm thinking about the oneness. So for me, oneness is when I see people, they are in front of me, they are suffering, then I think of their suffering, and then I think that is also, I have something relating to that. Yeah, and then I send my blessing to them. So when I see that people, they are happy, I'm also happy for them. So for me, it's like a practice of to really observe how I have a separation with people, or how I see the judgment to people, to myself. So for me, the oneness is a compassion, is love. So so if I have the judgment to the people around me, to my colleagues, to my families, to my teachers, to everybody, then because I set up the separation with them. So that is not oneness. So that is, I think oneness for me is compassion and love and accepting for everything, acceptance for everything. Yes, but it is starting from me. Yes.
Perhaps we have room for one more question.
Yes. Hi everyone. I just wanted to ask a question that I think maybe everyone here is thinking about, and maybe it's been answered in different ways, but just to pull it together. My understanding from the discussions we've been having today is that we're focusing on that moment in a human's life where they start thinking, how do I improve my life? How do I get to know myself better? How do I become more in touch with myself and with spirit, my spirit or world spirit, universe? And using techniques like meditation or eating healthy or being more active, slowly getting oneself to a better pace, growing up emotionally and mentally in that respect. However, as correctly noted earlier as well, if there's 100 forces, there's 85 that are pulled subconscious, unconscious that are pulling back, and 50 that are pulled conscious that are pulling forward. And to the extent that people around here have done some work with their subconscious or unconscious and maybe not, it is a very lengthy process. It does take a lot of different techniques. And I just wanted to ask, aside from what we have talked about right now, what other, how do I say it, ways should people be aware about to work with their subconscious and unconscious? Because meditation is a self-reflective exercise, but not everyone takes such deep knowledge from it. And maybe not everyone will take a spiritual path or a religious path, whereby the Buddha becomes a personification of every person they see around them, and therefore they can, use that to dispel their own upset feeling. So, how else would you work with your subconscious and unconscious?
Well, I really believe the simple step is to watch your thoughts. Because our mind, subconscious mind, produces probably around 60, 70,000 thoughts per day. Now, unfortunately, just probably 2 or 3 or 4% of your thoughts are new. The rest of them are repetitive. I want to eat, I want to sleep, I want to have sex, whatever. Doesn't matter. Now it's important to see your thoughts and to watch your energy that you feed these thoughts. And this is a simple exercise I'm teaching in my heart imagery workshops. I call the observer. And also I was teaching in business, corporate world, and they really enjoy it. Just like an actor, try to watch yourself, what you are thinking. does it worth to put energy in that thought? And before, because it is a thought and then is the action, right? First you are thinking, I'm doing that, and then you are moving to do the action, right? And try to do that. And I think this is pretty easy, I would say. Of course, all of us would like to stand on the top of Himalaya in lotus posture and to do meditation. But here on the street, a simple thing is just to watch, to be an observer, to watch yourself. And that's, I would say, a simple technique, and it has a really good result. Suddenly, sooner or later, you start to see exactly what you are thinking, and you start to withdraw the energy. You will have less and less thoughts of subconscious mind and more thoughts of conscious mind. That is creation, pure creation, now. And that makes difference.
All right. Since you quoted my example, I have to respond. I think the way I look at it is in two ways, which is very simple. One is a fact. Something I teach is called E plus R equals O, which is event plus response equals outcome. What happens most of the time is that people always blame an event. When something goes wrong, they blame, it's raining outside, my wife doesn't understand me, my boss doesn't like me, the government is taxing me, so we're always blaming the event. But the power, if you want an outcome that you really desire, the power is always in your own response. Do you control everything that happens in your life? No, we don't. None of us do, right? So the only way you can get the outcome you want is by changing your response to an event. So being mindful about that can really change your life very drastically. Because like Daniel just mentioned, the only thing we control is our thoughts. Yeah, the images we hold in our minds and the actions we take. These are the things that we only control. We cannot control the people, we cannot control the circumstances. So when we get mindful about that, we can change our outcomes in dramatic ways. That's one. Second thing I would say, is everybody aware of tapping? Has anybody ever done tapping? Tapping is very powerful.
I've done everything.
Yeah, it's very powerful. If you really want to change a subconscious belief, there are many other ways of doing it as well, but one of the simplest ways is also through tapping. You can try that. It's everywhere on the net, and there are many teachers who do it. That's another way of reversing patterns of behavior that are not serving you, apart from some other things which are more deeper processes, but these are relatively simple and easy to do even on a daily basis. Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Catherine?
Thank you.
You know me too well.
Because honestly, I wanted to ask a question. I want to ask a question of you. What do the people in the Body, Mind, Spirit platform, what should they be doing to help you to develop? And by you, I mean the whole of Hong Kong. And I can say we, although it's my first time in this group, I'm so excited to be here. I didn't know there was anything like this here. I think it's fabulous, the whole idea of coming together like this. And I'm really keen to know what should we be doing next. We already have a microphone. Oh.
Put the table upside down.
There's one.
I think Body, Mind, Spirit platform is already doing a very, very good job. Like organizing, seminar or talks like this. And, I know our Dr. Charles Center already been, doing every day and night, think of how to improve, our, the group here. Yeah, so I think they are doing great job that, already exceed our imagination. It's faster than we can, catch up. So I think it's up to us who, participate more and, invite you guys, the master to come and exchange ideas and leave that, in the way. And the blogs and the videos and share more because we are quite busy. I agree that, Daniel said we don't have a moment to stop. While I'm listening to the talk, I'm still, texting and writing notes and sharing with my groups at the office. Our mind is like, non-stop. Although I enjoy it a lot because I think it's like really great things I want to share with the world. So it's just maybe facilitates those who have no time to participate in this room to be able to have a chance to review all the video and notes and things. Things like this will help us a lot. So we would like to see, you more and more often. Yeah, that's what, I want to see in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. I have to second what Jamie just said. I think what the platform has done has exceeded our expectation already. For myself, in the last 2 years, I've been in a hermit mode because I really agree that actually our reality is a projection of us, what's inside. So I think it's up to all of us here to practice what we preach. And trust that we are already one, which I agree very much with. Yeah, and so I just want to deeply honor all of you, and I also want to honor all of us here. I think we are at a time in the consciousness development that we are mature. I think most of us are mature enough to realize there is no guru. We are our own guru. Yeah, so thank you.
I'm going to go back to the unconscious and conscious because it actually ties in very well. I'm not sure what the Body, Mind, Spirit group does. This is my first time here. But what I definitely see generally, and if it's touched upon by your group, then by all means, is I feel we need to do more in relation to emotional knowledge. Understanding how a lot of the subconscious and unconscious material comes from times when we were conscious, and how that's affecting us right now. And we can be aware of our everyday thoughts and monitor and be more conscious and aware and have techniques. However, when we have a wound, the Band-Aid is easy to remove. We need to go and find the cause, the root cause. So to have education that brings us to understand our root cause a lot more. That's my recommendation.
In fact, I have one question which I cannot solve in my mind now. Santa mentioned about there are 3 levels, right? The self-healing, personal level, cosmic level, universal level. But in this real world, we watch the news every day. It's all the social issue, all the political issue. It's lots of jokes, arguments in the legislative council. It's all the funny things. Happens. As a BMS teacher, we do lots of consultation with the client in front of us, dealing with the personal, family, career issue. But what about in a bigger sense? This political, issue, especially in Hong Kong. About all these news. So what standpoint and how should we see? And I really, my scope is not up there yet. When we watch the news, so I see lots of like contradiction, lots of anger, lots of greed, prejudice, and lots of things happening. So what can we do when we see all this? I usually won't discuss politics with my clients because once you talk about it, all the emotion and the energy is all different. So how should we see and move on in a situation like in Hong Kong?
I want to share because in the New Age, we say we create our own reality. Yeah? And then there's nobody outside but inside. Now, there are a lot of famous proverbs. And also, So talking about when we say that, when we see the outside world, so we know it is a projection of ourselves, but that is the only rational mind we know. But how do we feel? So from my personal experience, that we know that we also study the diamond cutter. We know that everything is emptiness. So it is really relating to the spiritual knowledge of the New Age of the principle. So if everything is emptiness, but when I see really outside, everybody is suffering. So how do I feel? So what I can do is that what I'm doing is that I really open my heart, and then I really send a blessing to everybody. I know that they are relating to me. This is a part of my projection. Maybe not this life, maybe in previous life, we don't know. So I know that this is the emptiness. I just stay still, keep my emptiness inside. And also, second thing I will do the Ho'oponopono. I know that when I have the energy stuck here, I have a lot of grudge, a lot of hatred. I do the Ho'oponopono. I know it is all related. Everything is related. I clean myself first. When I do that, everything, I feel that the outside world is changing. So for me, two tools. The emptiness of diamond cutter and Ho'oponopono when I see outside. Thank you.
I can so relate to your question. And I'm someone who's really kind of an activist at heart. So I spend a lot of my life trying to change things. And in fact, that's partly how I got into coaching, because I don't know if you know, I used to be the president of the Clear the Air, was back in the 90s, an air pollution lobby group. Stop those diesel taxis and all that. And then I stopped because it was such an angry place to be, and I realized I didn't want to be angry like that. So of course I'm a long, long way from there now, but I still have this tendency to see things could be different, could be better, and to be judgmental about things. And then I love what you said, Santa, because after so many times wasting my time and energy and making things worse, I finally start to try to really do what she suggests. Because it is the most valuable. Like I said before, we stay in integrity because we put ourselves first because, one, it's in integrity, but two, because it's the most effective way. That's why.
Thanks for your question. I will think that the present political antagonism, pessimism, and frustration could be the best venue for spiritual practice. Because if our happiness is predicated upon the outside world, then we are doomed. Then, because life is so impermanent by definition, nothing we can control. So I think only because the outside world is so frustrating, especially in the last 5 years, politically and socially, it pushes us to turn inward. It pushes us to realize that there's no utopia in the outside world, and we need to create our own happiness in our mind. And so as BMS teacher, I think it's utterly crucial that we really practice what we preach, that we really be very serious to empower ourselves and to practice it. And having said that, it doesn't mean that we separate spirituality and politics. Contrary-wise, I think politics predicates ultimately on spirituality. And so personally, I'm also a big political advocacy, and that's why I'm disturbed too, obviously. But exactly, I always hope that one day in Hong Kong there's I don't know how to put it in English, 政治修行, how to put it, political spirituality. I really hope that there will be more protests run in spirituality. We can march with 1,000, 10,000, 1 million people in silence, in the most bold, confident manner, not out of anger, but out of love. And
protest loudly, silently, spiritually. I don't know how it can be happening, but when there's a critical mass that we can set our intention clearly in this direction, I think it's absolutely crucial. If we feel frustrated because of outside world, then I should be ashamed being a BMS trainer. Because how can I help my so-called client? Yeah, thank you.
No, I want to mention, I just think about that because I mentioned Taiwan. So Taiwan, they have the new, like I said, they have a group of people, a center, or teachers. They group together. They want to create a new culture, including the politics. So what they observe, because everybody knows in Taiwan, there are different parties, blue and green. Everybody fighting for each other every day. So they said nonsense, bullshit. Every day fighting. Forget about that. They want to create something new. So I think in Hong Kong, when we are standing, we think I think I'm going to against the government, or I choose harmony. I don't want to against harmony. I don't want to against government. Besides these two choices, there are much more choice. The choice is we have our new lifestyle, new culture, new education, new politics. Come from love, come from freedom, come from blessing and abundance. That is where we should go. This is a copy from Taiwan. I think it's good. And then they said, they promised, they are starting now, maybe in 1 year, they want to really to spread out the message to Hong Kong and China. Yeah, this is a new trend. Yes, thank you.
More listening to offer.
Could I add one little information? While we organized this meeting in the last week, sorry for the short notice because we have the idea a week ago only. And there are actually many very senior experienced local BMS trainers, Chinese and non-Chinese, that cannot come here today. So we're actually thinking seriously about the possibility of organizing another on a more larger scale with more different very experienced trainers to come to develop. Today is just beginning of a brand new chapter for ourselves and society, hopefully.
So, first thing I would say, don't watch the news so much. Seriously, because CNN constantly negative news. So most of the time when we watch news, you will see they never talk about the good things. It's always because news thrives on misery. The more dramatic you make things, more sensationalize it, that's more viewers. So really,
it's good news. Bad news is good news.
Yeah. So I know it might seem a bit contradictory, but I would say that the amount of exposure you give to negative news, the better it is. Because there's so much negativity around you that you can always get consumed in it. Secondly, I would say is that all of us tend to give our power away. We always blame somebody else for something that's happening around us. It's the government, or it's the economy, it's the weather, it's Donald Trump, or whoever it is. So we are always looking at external factors, and I think you always have the power to choose. I 100% believe that. Regardless of whichever situation or circumstances you're in, you always have the power of choice. You might accept that, or you might not and choose a different option. So I think similar to what Varshan says, sometimes you have to claim your own power and create positive images about where you want your life to go. Because most of the times we get upset about things that don't even concern us. They might have very little impact on us. So, whatever happens around you, try and claim your own power because you always have the power to choose. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
I'm not a big fan of news, honestly. I don't have a phone or something else. So I would say you really have to filter really as a spiritual teacher, even YouTube and all this stuff. So because now there is a explosion of ascension YouTube videos and all this information, and a lot of them, I would say 99% of them are not true. The people who put these things out there, they don't have a clue what they are talking, and they really change the life of people in a way that it's not good. I see a lot of children, a lot of students practicing all this stuff now, trends with ayahuasca and all these hallucinogenic that affects really the third eye, the pineal gland, and so on. And they put it out there like really good things, really good news. So I would say, as a spiritual teacher, that's another thing, you have to really filter the information and try. I wouldn't say to stay away. Try you to be a good filter and to understand what's there, if it's really worth your energy, your thoughts. I would put it in this way, because you can never stop politics, and this will go, it seems, forever. So your attitude towards that thing will make the difference, right? You decide if that thing is worth or not, my opinion. I have a lot of friends in USA, they love Donald Trump. I love a lot of friends in USA, they don't love Donald Trump. But I love all of them, So that's their way of seeing things, so it's not our way. I would say, like spiritual teachers, we really have to be in our heart and to be, I would say, pretty in the middle way, to understand things and not to be with one side or another, like Passion said. We have to go out there in our heart and to keep hands together and to change things from a different perspective, not fighting and all this stuff.
Well, thank you. I'm sure at this point you are congratulating yourselves for having come this afternoon. This has been a very fruitful time for us as coaches, as therapists, as healers, and as spiritual teachers. As Swatan said, we should be coming together more often. I'm sure you agree with me that if you want to be pessimistic, you are in hell. See who is now in charge in the Kremlin, in Beijing, and in the White House. And our school kids are jumping to their death. And in Hong Kong, we are all angry, we are all desperate, and we are all unhappy. But at the same time, all kinds of good things are happening. If you want to see, there's so many encouraging trends in the global scale and as well as locally. So I think that's why we're here today. That's why we get the calling to change the world. And to change the world actually is to change ourselves. There's nothing outside, as we say. As they say, enlightenment is when the waves realize that they are the ocean. We are the ocean. We are one. And I think it's time for us to dream together. And we dream that there will be a world before long, then we all live as spiritual beings. We keep stay connected. Remember the SC, stay connected. Thank you. And to round things up, I think it would be a good way to share a melody called The Beautiful Dreamer. And there's a melody I would like to offer to you. We're all beautiful dreamers. We dream together for a more beautiful world. came together again.